Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the Align for Success podcast. Happy spring. I just love the sun is still shining at this late hour, and the birds are singing, and the cats are meowing and doing their lover thing. And both me and my guest are wearing some flowers because we feel springy. Yes. So I am Deborah Deras, your hostess with the mostest, Latina speaker, peak performance expert, and your mindset, marketing, and manifestation coach. And we are here each and every week to align for success, where I share my mentors, people that have inspired me because of their practices, spiritual, internal mindset practices to create success from the inside out. And today we have a very special guest, like every week, and you are going to love her. And the reason that I am so passionate about all of you joining is because I believe that if everyone in the world aligned for success, that they use their talent, skills, and abilities towards their soul's contract, that we would create such a better place with elevated consciousness on the planet. And that's why I would love if you could share this. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, share it out. We have a saying here at Align for Success: sharing is caring. If you're listening on iTunes, you can go ahead and write us a 5-star review. We love reviews. Reviews tell us that you love it and you want more. Where else can you get free content that is consciousness raising, building you up, and helping you succeed each and every day? Wanted to let you know that this episode is being sponsored by the Ignite Your Revenue group coaching program. So some of you may watch Netflix. You have horror, drama, and comedy. Well, not on our Ignite Your Revenue program. We have mindset, marketing, and manifestation videos downloaded to you each and every month. One of each videos, what I like to call Deb BizFlix. In addition to that, we synergistically meet once a month on the third Thursday of the month, where we get together, synergistic soul-based entrepreneurs, for group coaching. We share our successes, we share our challenges, and we ignite together for community. So I would love for you to be a part of it. You can join us at deborahderas.com/events. Love to see you there. So without further ado, we have an amazing show on the Align for Success podcast. Why? Because we have my friend, my sister, the beautiful, the gorgeous Vee. And Vee believes that yoga is a tool for healing. Vee is the founder of Beach Yoga SoCal in Santa Monica and an autoimmune coach. Ooh, I'm interested. Her coaching program is called Immune Strong Coaching. She began teaching yoga after she was diagnosed with an autoimmune illness 5 years ago. She is a 500-hour Yoga Alliance certified instructor, completing her 200 hours at the American Yoga Academy in Summit, New Jersey. Oh, yeah, from the East Coast, too. You know it, right? Under, guess who? Deepak Chopra, Certified School of Instructors, and her 300 hours of light on Lotus Studio in Venice, California. She's my neighbor. An award-winning member and active volunteer in the Santa Monica community, Bee is well known for creating Beach Flow 101, taught at her Beach Yoga studio. That's right. She owns a section of the beach. I know it because I go there, right? Saved our soul in quarantine. She is on Ready, Set, Move, a TV series produced by Santa Monica City TV that encourages viewers to move their bodies, right? She has been featured in LA Weekly, LA Yoga Magazine, NBC LA, and ABC7 LA. Santa Monica Travel and Tourism also featured Vee in multiple international campaigns for her unique work. Born and raised in New Jersey. Oh, yeah. Our last guest was born and raised in New Jersey, too. And then in 2 weeks, my other guest is born and raised in New Jersey. Come on. That's where all the brilliant people come from, right? She currently lives in Los Angeles with her husband. He's so sweet. His name is Eric. And 3 dogs. I think all of my April guests are like from New Jersey. It's so crazy. She enjoys trying new restaurants, writing poetry, short stories. Maybe she'll share one. And is always down for an adventure, especially if it involves adrenaline. You can see why she's my friend. Please welcome Vee Desai.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you
Hi,
so much.
beautiful.
Thank you so much for the kind, wonderful introduction.
Oh my God. You know, I fell in love with you when I first met you. I was like, Amiga, right? When I first saw you at Beach Yoga, I just was like, who is this beautiful light? Such a
It was
beautiful light
love at
you
first
are.
sight. Love at first sight, mutually, I think.
E-
Our energies just clicked. It was so organic.
Exactly. And then I'm like, oh, you're a Mar Vista mamita like me? Wait a minute. So tell them the story of how you had the courage and your journey to come from New Jersey all the way here to Los Angeles.
Well, Deborah, anytime you make a big change like that, it's going to be a challenge. So the journey of me coming over here is filled with so many incredible experiences. So the reason I came here is to take on a beach yoga business. I found an ad for this business on Indeed.com.
Oh,
I
really?
Yes, I was searching for some yoga jobs, and it was a time in my life when I was transitioning between work. And so
Uh-huh.
I was looking, and this ad popped up. It was a couple of times actually that I saw it myself, but I thought nothing of it because lived in New Jersey. My husband and I had been married for about 2 years, and we had a home there. We have our 3 dogs. We were both very close to our families, and they were nearby. So I guess I just never thought about moving. It was not
Right.
something that was really, in my dream world even. And then my husband, one day when he came home from work, Eric peered over my shoulder and he noticed this ad. And he was like, oh, did you like inquire about this? And I was like, honey, we're not moving to Santa Monica. It's in Santa
Right.
Monica. And then one thing led to another, and he convinced me to at least send an email to this lovely
Ah,
name is Brad Kymack, and he had been running beach yoga with Brad for about 10 years now, 8 years at that time, sorry. And then, but he was looking to retire, and I was looking for something, and it all just sort of like organically aligned for both of us. And
synchronicity, alignment.
city. But of course, like the doubt and the fear of like leaving the things and like the life that you thought you were going to have, like all of those things were definitely coming up for us. And it happened very quickly too. I had only stumbled upon the ad in February of 2018. And by May, we were packed up and ready, like driving cross country. So we took a cross country trip
Wow.
from New Jersey to California to our new home with our 3 dogs because we didn't want to put them on a plane because we're such suck,
Right.
but our dogs are everything. So we were like, let's just take a trip. We took our time, we stopped in some places. And then I landed here in June 1st of 2018 to this like beautiful, new, exciting life that I don't think I could have even fathomed before. And there were other synchronicities that happened. Like I was able to secure a decent apartment in Mar Vista, that accepted our dogs, and it was like within our budget, and it was available for June. So like there were a lot of things that were definitely supporting us, through the universe. But there were also like, challenges, like our parents didn't want us to leave, especially mine. And
Right.
so, but yeah. And so then I got here on Santa Monica Beach, and it's like, somehow this is my new life to teach yoga on Santa Monica Beach. And, I feel only 2 years later can I even feel like it sunk in. I think it even took a long time to even like process all of that was, happening. But yes.
Wow. Yeah, and it takes tremendous courage to follow your intuitive guidance system, to listen to your gut instead of listening to that ego, not your amigo voice of fear that says, what do you think you're doing? Who do you think you are? But what was wonderful, I think, is that you had each other. So your higher self and his higher self said, let's trust it, right?
Mhm. Well, it was like, we don't want any what ifs. We were about
Right.
29 years old, and we didn't have any children yet, 28, I think. And we were like, okay, well, if we're gonna move across country, and even ever take that kind of a chance, it's now,
Right.
And so it was like, otherwise we may wake up in 20 years and think, like, what if we had like explored that? And Eric was convinced that someone else was going to do it if we didn't do it. And so he's like, then we're going to watch that person's life and wish it was ours. I mean, I appreciated how much he like had seen the bigger picture, because at that time, I was very much like concerned about like what the now, but he was like, no,
Right.
I can see it. So it was
That's
wonderful.
what that is wonderful to have a partner that is that visionary that can hold that vision even when you have your doubts. That's just so
Exactly.
awesome. Yeah, and also who is by your side. Every time I come to beach yoga, guys, Eric's checking me and he's like valet parking me to my yoga mat on the beach, heaven on earth, right?
He
So
does love
let's
it.
I mean, Santa Monica is like always 72 degrees, right? 68 degrees.
I can't
So
complain.
I don't know if you know that hi, I'm Deborah Deras, recovering adrenaline addict. And it was through a teacher, her name is Adelaide Denton, that taught me Kundalini yoga that helped me with my autoimmune disorder and to recover and to prevent me from getting further down the road with what my business partner had lupus, an autoimmune disorder, and eventually did pass away as a result of complications for that. And my trajectory, if I would have kept going as an adrenaline addict, that would have been my trajectory, right? And so discovering yoga was like the beginning, and this was like in 1999 of my healing journey. And I'd love to hear how yoga was that healer for you.
I mean, there's so many parallels in that story between me and you, I think.
That's crazy. We didn't even know that about each other, huh?
Not at all.
Crazy.
But I'm happy we can relate on that. And I think that is what makes us, we're both such empathic people. You're a very empathic person. And I think it's because you've experienced a struggle, an invisible struggle that at
Right.
it's really making it really hard. But I always say even to my students that like yoga finds you when you need it the most, right? And so my
Ah,
very similar about that, because I mean, I was honestly, when I was growing up, Deborah, like I was definitely a nerd. I didn't, and I not nothing against nerds, but I was definitely like not a very athletic person. I didn't really move
ah.
my body much. I
Right,
didn't
right,
grow up in sort of like culture. I'm an Indian girl. I was raised in an Indian home. Both my parents were from India. I'm first generation here. So there's definitely like that cultural influence in my life that taught me to be very studious and very disciplined and to like prioritize my academics, not
right,
necessarily like going to play soccer or something, or like taking a
right.
dance class. So right off the bat, I was just one of those kids that didn't have too much of a connection to my body, as opposed to like somebody that played sports and, was maybe dancing at the time. So you kind
Right.
of build this like awareness that I didn't really get a chance to experience growing up. I did well in school. I went to Rutgers University, and then we met Eric, we fell in love, and then we were on this trajectory to get married. And that year of planning our big Indian wedding, it was like a big fat Indian wedding.
Oh, I missed it. Do it again.
And my husband is Salvadorian, so also a very like big cultural family, and meshing it all together. That was it was a year of very stressful planning. Great,
Right,
wonderful, but definitely stressful. And one of the biggest triggers for autoimmune is definitely
right.
stress. Right. And along with planning the wedding, we purchased a house that we closed on a month before we were getting married. So it was just like so many things. We became homeowners, we became husband and wife, and then we moved away like from our friends and stuff. It was a little bit away, but still it's like a brand new life. And at that time, I think just like transitioning for me, and a lot of the stress that was going on with all of the new changes in my life, I think it triggered my autoimmune
Right.
disease, which because my mom has lupus as well, and she's had it for a long time, I think I sort of have a little bit of an underlying, condition that I could be more likely to get it, more susceptible to get it.
Right.
And so, boom, when I was like 28 years old, I had an autoimmune disease all of a sudden.
You're like,
And,
what? I
yeah,
didn't order this. I didn't order
yes,
this from Amazon.
amazing. it's called Sjogren's syndrome. And I was like, couldn't even spell it. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know anything about it. And it's this like alienating, thing that's happening. And all of a sudden I feel like I'm falling apart. Like I'm tired. I was starting to experience arthralgia. I was just not well mentally and physically. And the shock of really like thinking that this was something that I was going to have for my whole life was definitely, it was a lot for me initially.
Right.
So then there was yoga. And I got into it just because I was like researching ways to sort of manage an autoimmune disorder, and yoga was one of them. So I was like, all right, well, especially because I wasn't a very fit person, I was like, I feel like, like gentle movement, maybe a beginner's yoga class, like I could definitely do that, and this is talking about 5 years ago now, like Deborah, like I couldn't even do pigeon pose. Like I didn't have that realm of flexibility at all.
Wow.
Awareness, I'm like, how does one do that? Like, how does your leg even do that? And so then there was yoga, and it taught me a connection to my body, and was really helpful and supportive in the time when I needed to accept what was going on, rather than resist what was coming at me. And that was probably the first time I sort of learned that acceptance brings, ease, and resistance sort of sprouts dis-ease or disease, right? So that's how, like, connecting to my body and breathing, meditation, all the things that came along with learning yoga, slowing down, being present, being in my body, helped me a lot with coping with the symptoms of my autoimmune disorder. I was having gut issues. Everyone can talk about gut issues, I'm sure, for days, right? So the stress of the diagnosis was really rocking my gut, and new restrictions and diets and this and that. And so yoga was there for me, and I have a very, very deep, special love and connection to the practice because it has supported me. It still continues to support me through very challenging times, So, but yeah, that's a little bit about how I got into it. It's been about probably 5 to 7 years that I've even been practicing. So I would say it's fairly new to me too, right?
And I can't believe, because you're such a masterful teacher. Like I've been to a lot of yoga classes, and especially belonging to Hut 8, because they really had the best of the best yoga teachers there, especially in Beverly Hills and Santa Monica. And when I went to your class, so I had high expectations. I was like, oh my God, this just flows and I love it. And I'm able to do positions that I could never do just the way that you describe it. Right. And like when you said acceptance brings ease and resistance bring dis-ease, like just the things that you say that ease us into the poses, it's not like to me, the practice is not like a physical, it's a spiritual, emotional, mental, transformational, especially with the ocean and the dolphins and the sun and the sand. And it's like nobody's there, even though there's like fire trucks and people, like everything seems to always happen when we're doing yoga class. Like airplanes are flying over, there's fire trucks, there's EMTs, there's police, like there's everything. But we're just like in this own little world of Zen because of, so I don't consider you to be like a yoga teacher, like you're like a spiritual practitioner. You transform us. How did you like surrender from being just learning yoga to having the courage and the faith to teach it? Because I'm sure there's some imposter syndrome that might creep in, right? And say, who am I to do this? I just started practicing it. And here you are with the courage and the guts to do it.
It's so funny you're bringing all those things up because, like, I moved from New Jersey to Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the mecca of yoga. Some of the most best teachers,
I didn't know.
Country. Let's just say the country. I mean, Los Angeles, California, Santa Monica, California, particularly, you have some of the most health-oriented people. Everybody's outside. Everyone knows that it's important to be outdoors, spend time in nature. It's one of the reasons you want to live there, right? Because you're looking for an active outdoor life. And after my 200-hour training, I was trained in Hatha yoga. So that's a little bit more, slower paced and more focused on the spiritual side, in my opinion.
I love it.
So, but when I moved here, I'm like, okay, like I'm here. I landed in LA. Like I'm strutting my stuff. I'm gonna go get myself a teaching job, like while I'm teaching on the beach, right? And I was like, I'm gonna teach on the beach, and I'm gonna like, ingrain myself in the community by finding a job at a local studio. Was my hope, of course, as
Right.
any teacher, I think, when they move here, correct? So here I am. And boy, was it a slap in the face because I didn't have the most advanced yoga practice. I am
Right.
still right now going to let you know that, you're not going to, I practice my inversions, but I'm not ready to teach them yet. And
Right.
so there's definitely an element I found in this area where, it is about that like advanced ability, which makes yoga a little bit, to me, feel exclusive. And I went to lots of studios where, just the mentality, like I remember when I first moved here and I really needed yoga, Deb, and I was 2 minutes late to this class and it was hot, so they wouldn't let me in. And I
Oh,
swore
yeah.
on my life
Background.
that I would
The background.
never, ever, ever stop someone from coming into my class late. Because if they're running late, they probably really need that yoga class
Yes.
in that moment.
Yes.
And then for me to be like, no, I started, that's not going to work. So then it brought me to this trail of thought that, yoga is meant to be accessible to every single person.
Right.
It's not supposed to be something that feels scary or intimidating. It should actually be associated with like much more positive connotations, like, nurturing and restorative and
Yes.
strength lengthening, right? Instead of like, oh my goodness, like I could never get my leg over my head. How could I go into that yoga class? And this like sort of competitive era of yoga, I think, especially in the West Coast, I noticed transitioning from a suburb in New Jersey to like a bustling city like LA or Santa Monica. It was definitely a lot of imposter syndrome happening. Like there was
Right.
definitely times where I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And then I even sometimes would be like, I don't even know if beach yoga is real. Like, is beach yoga even like a real? Like, there were so many moments where I was like, is that what real yoga is? And then through this, like, through 2-3 years of like being here and practicing it and building community, like you realize that everybody really wants is to feel like they belong somewhere. And they really
Yes.
connection. Everyone's looking for connection. So to me, it's not about the posture or the flow or whatever the heck I'm teaching you today. It's really mostly about you coming out there on the beach, taking the time for yourself, meditating to the ocean. Like the ocean has been so therapeutic for me. I just, sidebar, but like I always talk about in my coaching and in my classes how like the ocean is so healing. So that experience of yoga on the beach, it's like an all sensory experience,
Right.
and it's like you feel so good coming out of it because whether or not you connected to another individual there, you connected to a force of energy, to the ocean,
Yes.
to the earth.
And you can
And
feel like a heartbeat in the sand. Do you
of
feel that?
course,
Like, I
yeah,
never want to get up after you go. I'm like, when we're
yeah.
laying there, I'm like, "Do I need to go anywhere?" It's so hard to leave. I
Around just
feel
like
that I feel this
secluded.
pulsation of
Mm,
energy just flowing through me. It's like,
that's
how
beautiful.
yeah, but I'm so glad that you said that because when I first started doing yoga and I went to this certain yoga studio in Santa Monica and they were
Mhm.
doing inversions and it was so difficult and it was making me so nauseous and dizzy that I remember the class I thought was going to be like 45 minutes to an hour, but it was like 75 minutes. And I was hiding in the bathroom because I was like, when is this class going to be over? I was like, because I couldn't leave because my stuff was in there. I'm like, let me just go to the bathroom and hope that I could just stay there till the class was over. And like that's not what it should be about. So
Yeah.
when I come to you, and I'm not just saying this because I love you, but when I came to your class, like it was just like a spiritual inner vacation. And I think especially coming out of quarantine, because I was, by
Mm,
myself from home and nothing was in person except for you. You could be open because you were
yeah.
outside. And to practice with other people, let's talk about immunity for a minute. There is immunity in community. Like all of a sudden, I felt like I wasn't a zombie. Like I was like, if I stay in the house, I'm going to be 400 pounds rolling out of quarantine. I'm like, I need to get out. I need to see other people in Lululemon pants and start practicing.
I hope everyone's receiving that message, because no, if you haven't been moving your body, please get outside and do that. But yeah, I mean, we were so blessed. There was definitely a time when our business struggled because we were closed, because initially the beaches were closed, if you remember.
Oh, just for that a couple of weeks, right?
No, honey,
What was the
we were
month?
from March through August was when I reopened, and it was in late July that the restriction lifted. And I reopened in August. So it was
Oh,
definitely like, yes, comparatively to a lot of businesses that I know have, suffered much, much more. I
right,
did experience a little bit of like, losing my business, being shut down, and like, what other people are probably experiencing in that time, and
right,
for a prolonged period of time, whereas like I got to only experience it for a shorter time period. And then when we reopened, I mean, it was I mean, I felt so grateful that I could even be a vessel where you could feel a sense of community, in an outdoor space. And practicing yoga, to me too, Deborah, it's like so much about practicing in community. It's the energy that you all create like together in that moment. That's why even in most of my classes, I'm like always moving at a pace that like maybe annoys one person, but it's like the right pace for the other person, but it's probably not the right pace for that person, but they're being tested and the other person's being tested.
yes,
It's just like a lot of that going on. It's like, okay, so do you want to move faster, and like why? Or do you need
right,
to slow down, and are you like just going through it? Why? And then there's just like these things that come up when you're doing yoga on the beach that like you just don't really like experience when you're in a studio, because of the ground and all the support you have with that. This is definitely a little bit more of that challenge arises because we're on the sand, but there's the whole grounding aspect, the earthing aspect, and like the connection that's happening, and then for us to be able to say like, okay, I feel like so much of the pandemic is isolating. I felt the same way before I got out there, like, oh my goodness. And then it's like you're isolated in your pain. So it's hard to think that other people are also, because we're just not like talking to
right,
anybody, right? So it's like, oh,
right.
I feel like I'm by myself here. And when in actuality, we're all going through it. But luckily, you're able to kind of see that when we come together on the beach. It's been a blessing for me too. It's uplifted me. It's gotten me through COVID. I got to have the energy of students. I'm a teacher who gets
Right.
to a group of 20 people. Like not a lot of teachers can do that right now. So, I'm so
It's
blessed
so
for that.
true. And I loved how you talked about grounding and earthing, because this was something that was a divine download that had me move to the beach because I was living next to you in Mar Vista,
Mhm.
and like the ocean, I was like Moana in the movie, or Little Mermaid, Ariel,
Or
or
Aries.
they were calling me like the ocean wave was like going like this, and I knew that I wasn't gonna make it through the quarantine if I didn't come here. And there was something about grounding and earthing, and I don't even know if I know exactly what grounding and earthing is, but I know I needed it. What is grounding and earthing, and how can we use it to align for success?
So grounding or earthing is synonymous, is essentially just being barefoot on the earth. It doesn't necessarily
Barefoot.
barefoot.
Okay,
Barefoot.
okay.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sand,
Right.
I believe that the sand, I think, has more energetic particles like electrons and neurons and things. So you might feel that more when you're on that kind. But you can also, walking on grass, like try walking on grass. It is one of the most like calming, soothing, like cooling experiences. It literally takes your energy from like high up there, especially if you're feeling warm or you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious, and like think of like where the energy is residing. It's all up here in your head, in your
The
heart, right?
extremities. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so like when you start to put your feet on earth, whether it's in the grass, on concrete even, or on the sand, in the ocean, it just brings that energy downward because it's almost like it's its own energetic field. And so it's like grounding you. And in that sense of grounding, I think it helps you stay present, right? Because now you're like connecting your body to like the right now moment. Even without, I know you do that wearing shoes, but it's different because you still got the barrier there of like your shoe. It's not the same, I guarantee it. So, and like I'll even see people walk on the sand and they don't take their shoes off, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like
Right.
it's you're missing out on that
Oh,
connection. And but yeah, and essentially it's just walking barefoot. They say when you wake up in the morning, you should just like walk outside barefoot, look at the sun, couple of minutes, like it's a really great practice to add to your day to just like lower any sort of anxiety or anxiousness that's happening, and puts things into perspective by keeping you present and like here in the now, and not as much in like the head and wandering out.
Because it puts the energy that's like this, all the ego, not your amigo talk, to like, that's why, like, anytime, and I do it as a practice now, 1, 2, 3 times a day I'm walking, but I'm
Wow.
not always walking. Yeah. Girl, I went from Mar Vista, like 6,000 steps to 14,000 yesterday. I did 14,000 steps, and I have a bad ankle right now, so I shouldn't be doing 14,000 steps, but I'm getting better. But I love that because then it really grounds and literally anchors you. So by the time I'm done walking, oh, what problem? It's like melted like butter in a frying pan. I can't even
Exactly.
remember it.
Right.
What was I worried about?
And then like, what else do you need to align for success? Then some sort of strategy to help you just decompress. Because so many people that are like looking for that level of success that I'm sure your clients are and our listeners are looking for right now, you know, you need that sort of alignment. That is the alignment, because otherwise you're all over here and you're not in here, right? And then just in like that energetic field of like bringing you down to the ground is calming, it's soothing, it's grounding, and that I think allows you to be a better leader. You know, you'll do better in your projects, what your creative you know, things you're working on. If you're an entrepreneur and you're, you know, newly born baby, or you've had this baby for a while, I think there's just so many levels of spiritual work that happens when you like get there. And I think that spiritual work is very much necessary to be really truly successful and happy, because that's also important, right? Are you even successful if you're not happy? You know, we could talk about that.
No.
Right.
Right. We
It's
did. We
like,
talked about on the last podcast how to have a joy and not a job because
that's where I heard it. Yes.
yeah, success is, well, it depends how you define it, but I would not define like a certain amount of money as success, or a certain success is, are you at peace? For
Yeah.
me, do I
Success
have
is.
freedom? Do
Mhm.
I have balance? Do I have
Yeah.
health? And that's why, see why I love her so much. She teaches me so much. But you're like the only person that really explained to me grounding and earthing. Like, I received the divine download that I needed to ground and I needed to earth, but I didn't understand why, because it was
Hmm.
just like a download. Like, I didn't know the
Yeah.
concrete reason behind it. So that's awesome. Ooh la la. Can I quote you from my book? I want to write you your
Oh,
little
I would
quote
be
in my book. Okay, great. Okay. So let's talk about because everyone, when we talk about success, oftentimes you hear about, all the highlights, but we don't
fine.
put on the LinkedIn our lowlights and the challenges and the struggles. And that's why I love to be like in my Confessions of an Adrenaline Addict book, to be vulnerable of all the, things that, me and Adelaide both had to go through to get to a place of success with ease and grace. What were your low points and how did you come out of it through your inner practices?
That's definitely a tough question for me. Highs and lows, and they come and go. What comes to mind initially, though, right away, is this moment I had during COVID. So I think I'll share that because that's probably a lot of people had a lot of very
Yes.
profoundly low moments during COVID. I know I giggle, but definitely the case for. I think it's very relatable that this pandemic happened and turned everyone's world upside down, and what you thought isn't anymore. So that in itself was really challenging. But for me particularly, like I said, so we were shut down and starting in March. Eric was still working, so I was sort of in this like weird funk of like being home by myself and like not having anything to do
Oh,
anymore. And it was tough, like noticing that I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to see my friends, and oh my, like, oh, this is closed now. Oh, now this is closed. Look, oh, I can't go here and I can't do this, and like just like everybody, we're like losing all of those things that we're so accustomed to having, definitely
right.
taking for granted, right? And then I received this diagnosis in April and I wasn't feeling well. And it was another sort of autoimmune flare up type of diagnosis that happened to me in April. If you really want to geek it out, it's called interstitial cystitis. So you can look up if you want to. And I hope I'm not being too raw, but essentially it's an issue with your bladder where it becomes inflamed. And so obviously extremely bothersome. Millions of people go through it. I had no
Right.
idea. It was one of those things I was like, what? Wait, why? I can't even spell that. And so it was
Right.
like, Now I'm here in the pandemic. I'm not working. I'm not making money. I'm on unemployment. And now you're telling me I don't see my friends and I can't see my parents and I can't see my family. And now I have this. And, you know, it was one of the very, very low points for me where, you know, to keep that mental game strong started to become very challenging. And I was sort of dealing with the symptoms of this flare up from April through almost August, which is like obviously ironic because that's when I reopened, but it consistently was bothering me. And I was like emotionally, like, you know, taking the toll it took on me emotionally in the marriage. And eventually he became furloughed too. So we're like both stuck and I'm not feeling well and all the things, right? And there it was, like yoga, what I was used to, right? So I was definitely one of those people that practiced almost 6-7 days a week. I was core yoga, right? I was like, it's a part of my day. I can't get through a day without it, which like now in hindsight, I'm like, oh, like that's a lot of things that to think about, which the quarantine essentially made me do. It like put pause, right? And so I realized that I think that a lot of it has to do with this you know, your nervous system is sort of this like when you're scared or you're nervous or you're uncertain about something, you kind of tense up and you get tight, right? It's like all in the body. And so I was thinking that maybe because I was going through such a challenging time with everything going on, I was like, okay, yoga has taught me that like I may be dealing with some of these stressful instances in life and it's like manifesting in my body. So like being able to kind of have that understanding gives me a lens to be like, okay, like this is why it's happening. Because ultimately, usually one of the first things that happens, and I'm sure if you've ever been diagnosed with something like that, it's like, why me, right? It's like, why? All right away. It's everybody's like goes into that victim mode and it's natural, you know, like you're not expecting to be, it comes out of nowhere for most people. And so it's like very like, huh, what? Out of left field. And so because I was like, okay, it's probably happening because I'm really stressed out and I'm having all these challenges, like, okay, like that's where that. So that helps me. Yoga in general gives you that sort of perspective, which is why I was so appreciative. But what ended up happening was that I started practicing yoga a lot less than I was practicing before. I started doing much more like restorative stuff.
Good.
Yeah, more yin yoga, more restorative yoga, which are different. More just like nourishing to myself rather than being like, I need to get into, you know, scorpion headstand and like, why can't I do it yet? And I'm like on this like to get this pose, which is totally not even the point of the practice. These lessons you learn through quarantine. And that was one of them for me. And along with sort of like slowing down my asana practice, which is posture pose, I was up my meditation, my breath work. That sort of connection. And also gratitude journaling. Gratitude journaling got me through COVID. It has been my saving grace. I went through 2 gratitude journals through the pandemic. And it was literally how I think I stopped the flare up. It went on for a long time.
Oh,
and
wow.
Close, yeah.
Through your gratitude journals, how you stop your flare up?
The gratitude journaling with all the other things, right? There's the meditation. There's less like, why are you doing yoga, right? Like, is it for the reason behind it? What's the intention behind it? So I became much more like, no, I'm doing it to nurture and calm the body. I'm not doing it to get into this pose or like even be skinny. It wasn't like, none of those reasons, physical. It was because of an emotional need I had. And that's why I was coming to my mat, because I emotionally needed it. You know, it was a spiritual intention behind the practice. And so that with the gratitude journaling, we're just like writing all the things that you don't really think about, like your dining table and like your placemats and your mug and like those things that you just like, you're like, oh yeah, but I am pretty grateful because I didn't have a dining table. Like, man, where would I eat? But we don't think about it because it's just this like, you know, this 4x4 square thing that sits here, but it's plastic, but still like some people don't have a dining table to eat on. A lot of people lost their dining tables maybe during COVID. And so it was just like a lot of that type of gratitude mindset to build your mental game, because the brain is just a muscle. And it's like, now I was like removed from all the things. So it was getting back into its like state of like safety, which is like, oh my God, nervous system's like high on panic, like protect V. And so we had to like retrain a muscle to be like, let's look at all these things from a different point of view. let's do some gratitude journaling, breath work, meditation, more restorative things, and like just finding things that helped me accept what was going on again, rather than resist. And like
Right.
resist also comes with like an upward energy, almost like, like I'm approaching it like this rather than like, I'm going to just approach it in this way. Okay. Like this is what it is. I'm not happy about it. No, but I'm going to talk about it in my journaling, and I'm going to still look at what I am happy about while I'm not happy about this, but I'm still happy I have this, and I'm still happy I have that. And through some of those, the inflammation died. I went to lots of doctors. I did acupuncture. I was doing physical therapy. I was doing cryotherapy. Like you name it, sister, I have tried it. Not only and I am a yoga teacher. So
Copying, right?
I'm practicing yoga all day long. And I'm
Right.
teaching yoga, and I'm on the beach, and I'm by the ocean, and I'm in the sun. I'm like doing all the things. And it was so challenging when nothing was working. I can't
Right.
like, and then you're just like at this place where you feel so low. And then thankfully I had these tools that got me out of it, got me through it. And then like knowing that these experiences are just going to help other people through their experience is like the lens I try to look at it is, because obviously my purpose here is to teach yoga, to be a vessel for yoga, and also to, hopefully help people who are struggling with these similar types of situations. Like the birth of my coaching program was through the COVID. That was
Yeah.
my
Hold
last.
on. I want to absolutely talk to you about that coaching
So
program, but I just want to tap into the gratitude journal. Britt was saying here, she's like, "Me too, girl. I do the gratitude journal." And I remember coincidentally in April having some sort of a skin flare up out of the blue. I broke out in some crazy thing, and I have a lot of clients that are like estheticians and plastic surgeons and just like in the medical field, and I'm like showing them pictures. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I don't even know what it actually was, but that and I didn't want to go to the doctor because of COVID, and the doctor said we think it's stress. We think it's stress, really, because it was like that moment where I was like, am I going to be locked in by myself forever? And I did exactly what you did, and I didn't do a gratitude journal, but I actually still have it on my door. It's a gratitude chart. And so top of it is music, meditation, paddleboarding, beach yoga, dance, walking in nature, roller skating, cycling, right? And so those are the things that not only got me to be grateful, but they shifted my mood. They were mood shifters, because to align for success, we cannot transform ourselves. Einstein says you can't change you can't change something at the consciousness that created it, right? So you have to evolve and see it not from the lens of, oh my God, this is wrong, why me, but to expand out, which is what you said gratitude does, to expand your consciousness. So now that led you to having your own coaching business to help other people. Talk about that. I didn't even know you were doing that.
I didn't even know I was doing it till a little while ago.
That's awesome. I love it. That's how you know it's divine. It's a divine assignment.
Yes. I mean, two things here, right? I mean, first, what I will say is the other thing that, and it all connects, but creation and creating and being in the realm of creativity brings so much ease to the body. Like there's just something that happens. I'm like, for example, sequencing a class. When I'm
really?
class, yeah, it's almost so brings me so much fulfillment and joy that whether I'm forgetting the pain or whether I'm like literally like just like having maybe an outer body up here type of experience where it's so in line with my like crown chakra and like what I'm meant to be doing in my purpose, that it eases my ailments. It brings me joy. And I think that it's so important, especially if you struggle with something like an autoimmune disorder. Like I highly recommend that you really find a hobby that like brings you a lot of joy. And I know says like no one's got time for their hobbies. I get it. I've been there. I've had a 9-to-5. I've been a realtor. I've been I've worked in sales. I've done a lot of things before I became the owner of Beach Yoga and I became doing yoga full time. So I understand that it will take time. And I'm not even saying maybe that it needs to become your life. I just
Right.
think that it's super important that you dedicate some time towards nourishing your sacral chakra, the area where like a lot of the inflammation in your hips and things like that.
Oh,
That's your creative energy, your hips and your in that area. And I think not
that's a
only
lie.
yeah,
It's a lie.
dancing for alignment and salsa for alignment, but essentially I think that creating is a big part of healing. Creating is part of healing 100%. And
Oh,
so
that's so cool.
when all this was happening, and I'm like, woe is me. And then I'm like, well, like why did I even become a yoga teacher? Like what for, right? Like beach yoga also kind of found me. It was very divine. It brought me here and it brought me to California. I like to think of it as like my first child, right? Like beach yoga is
Right.
now like a little toddler. And I'm like thinking about what's coming next. And then
Right.
like my new baby was Immune Strong Coaching. And it really just developed through quarantine because I was just like, well, why did I become a yoga teacher? Well, I became a yogi because it helped me with my symptoms. I became a teacher because I wanted to like share what how yoga helped me with other
Right.
people. Then I moved to LA and got caught up in like taking my 300 hours and expanding my practice and like just like learning a lot of stuff and then growing beach yoga. And then COVID happens and we're all pausing. So it's like, well, now what? Because beach yoga will open up again. Yes, I know the trajectory that's on. Okay. And so then, like, what is it that really fuels me though? Because it's still, there's like a part of me there that there's like something's missing.
Right.
And it was because I just was like, because I'm meant to share these experiences with people. And so when I started thinking about what I wanted to do, I was like, I want to help other people with autoimmune disorders because it really sucks. And I remember when I was even just diagnosed in April and I didn't have anyone that was like there to like coach me through that. Like there's like
Right.
nobody there to do that for you. You've got this doctor that comes to your face that tells you you have lupus, like you have Sjogren's, you have interstitial cystitis, and like they're programmed and taught to treat that symptom. Like when I go to my
Right.
rheumatologist, who's an amazing doctor, but when I go to him, he's like, oh my God, Vee, your inflammation markers are down. You're doing so well. We can like do your dose once a day. You don't have to take it twice. I'm so happy. And I'm like, oh yeah, like why do I feel like shit? I'm like, so like that doesn't resonate with me. And he's aware enough because he is a little bit of a spiritual person himself that like he's like, I know, I'm sorry. Like us doctors just focus on like what's on my repertoire, which is I'm concerned
Right.
about inflammation markers. I'm not thinking about, how your gut's doing. And I was like, okay,
Right.
I got the inflammation markers are down, but I haven't been able to eat for a week. And so it's like, well, then you gotta go to my other doctor.
Wow.
Oh my God. Like now I gotta go to a gastrologist, and then he's got something to say. And it's just like,
Mm.
I love my doctors. I love my team. I'm so grateful for all the people that like help us get through these things. And I'm not like by any means denouncing any kind of like medical care for your autoimmune issues, but I just felt that there was something lacking in this space of like compassion and like a
Yes.
lot like a feeling of isolation. Like, oh man, I'm by myself struggling with like, do I look like I'm in joint pain right now? I don't think so, but like, I know my back hurts and only I know that. And it's easy to be here on this podcast like this. And people are like, oh, wow, like she must be feeling great in her body. And you know what? A lot of times I'm not feeling great in my body. And it's hard to find people that can consistently remember that I don't feel that great. It's so hard to find that person that can be like, and my husband's amazing. He's super empathetic and very sympathetic at the same time. But like, even for him, when it's not in your body, how can you really
Right.
understand? Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, I was like, I get it. I get it. And so I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. I'm here to help you find a plan and help you here to just kind of hold your hand a little bit on your journey. And then like, hopefully we can work together to find some sort of like wellness treatment plan that can work with your schedule and where you're at right now, but still help you feel better rather than, feeling like you're by yourself, because I really wish
I
I just
love
had
it.
all time.
Yeah. I really wish my business partner Adelaide had met you because she went through hell and she had a wonderful and supportive husband, but it was like no one could understand because she looked so young and so beautiful and so fit with her yoga practice. She could barely eat anything by the time they took everything away. And it's like this invisible thing that so wonderful. And we need to have compassion. We need to have empathy for fellow human beings to know, and so that you don't get into a place of depression. So I'm so grateful that you've
Mhm.
answered the call to do this, to have your joy, not a job. I think we should rename this podcast the Acceptance Brings Ease, or Acceptance from Resistance to Acceptance, or something like that. That is just like
I like it.
the thing that is staying with me for this. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. Our time is up, but I would love
Come
to have you
on.
back.
Wow.
I would love to have you back to talk even more about your practice, and how you're working with people and everything. But I want to give everyone that's listening an opportunity to stay in touch with you. So definitely you want to follow V on Instagram. You
Yeah.
can look at the link below. It's instagram.com/V, V-E-E, DESAI. You're related to Panache Desai. I love Panache Desai, who I've
A
met
lot of
many times.
different out
Oh my
there.
God, I love him. I got to lead a meditation when he was speaking, and he hugged
Aw.
me, and then he did a healing on me on Instagram. I love him. You could also go to www.veedesai.com, and if you want to, you can come out to Santa Monica and join us for some Beach Yoga SoCal.com, right? BeachYoga SoCal.com. I'm sure you can find it from her Instagram page, from her website. It's so much fun. She'll be like, by the way, in class, if you see a dolphin, you can pause. I'm like, oh my God, I see one. I freak
We are
out every
so
single
lucky
time.
we get to look at dolphins while we do yoga. Like, go us, right? Come join us. I hope you'll join us, guys. It's really
Yes,
quite.
come, Brittany. Come, Brittany. Brittany's recovering too.
Oh, I wish you
Yeah.
lots of love and
Yeah.
light.
Brittany and I both went down. My ankle has been really not well this whole year. What is that a metaphor of, right? Not
I
wanting to
love
move forward.
root chakra.
Right? Oh, Brittany says, can't wait to join you at yoga. Yeah, she and I will both be fully recovered. We've claimed for ourselves by Cinco de
Yeah.
Mayo. And I'll also be immunized by then. So, hey, that'll
Saturdays
be great.
are silent disco, Deborah. Just throwing it out
Oh,
there.
yes. Oh my God. You put my picture on the poster of the
I
silent
know
disco. Was it
you're
you?
just the best. You come with the best energy, but Saturday is Yoga Glow Silent
This
Disco. So
Saturday? This
Saturday,
Saturday?
this
What
Saturday,
time?
March 27th, right next to Santa Monica Pier on the
Oh,
beach
I want to
at
go. What time?
5:30.
What
5:30.
time? Oh,
5:30.
ooh, for sunset. Oh, I'm
Yes.
so there. Britt, you should go. Bring your crutches. bring your boyfriend. Right, let's go. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So we
You know,
have a silent disco twice a month, guys. If you look at our stuff, you'll hear all about it. So
oh
Deborah knows
yeah.
who's
And
sharing
they have
more.
like three different channels. So one channel will be
Yeah.
like this, and then you get some dance hall, and then you get some reggae, and then I had the DJ play salsa. I'm like, we need salsa. And then we broke out into line dancing in the water. We're doing the wobble in the
While
ocean,
the
right?
sun is setting, guys. While the sun is setting, like, come
Oh,
on, right? Like,
epic,
what an experience.
epic, epic. Oh, would you like to close with your poem?
Oh, sure. I'll share my poem for you, Deborah.
Okay, thank you.
I just pulled it up. Okay. So it's called Faith. Faith is blind. It has no color. It can't be touched. It won't embrace you. It has no scent. It can't be heard. It won't satiate you. But faith is the bridge between me and you. Faith is the dance between your soul and mine. Faith breathes life into new beginnings. Faith gives us courage to speak our truth. Be faithful to each other. Have faith in one another. It is faith and only faith that will carry us through.
Oh, I gotta
Thank
cry.
you.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. And imagine doing like a 75-minute class and then ending with hearing the ocean and one of these poems. It's magical. You're magical. You're my beautiful sister. You're a queen goddess. Anything in any way I can support you. I'm always here. And I'm just so grateful to share you with my community, because I know that when they align with you, that they will boost their immunity and achieve that success with ease and grace that they desire. So thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in. I'm sure if you have any questions that you want to ask V privately, you can just DM her in the
Mhm.
Instagram. And I just so appreciate you. We are here each and every week with new episodes with my mentors to help you to align for success. If you want to align even more, I have a free video on my website, which is deborahderas.com, my name, which you see right here on the screen. And you can download my 4 steps to align for success. You'll also be invited to all of my webinars. I probably do 5 a week. This week I'm speaking at a women's conference. It's
Ooh.
free and you're invited to on Wednesday. I'll invite you guys. And you could just always go to my website at deborahderas.com to see all of the great events, which most of them are virtual, so you can attend anywhere, anytime. So thank you so much for being here. And remember, with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Ciao. Love you. Namaste. Bye.